up on Nuestra Voz Today, Journalism at Risk. A new docuseries by the San Diego Union-Tribune focuses on a huge problem facing Mexico's largest border city, the murdering of journalists to silence the truth.
Hoy me siento comprometida con mi gremio, con mis compañeros, y si esto me cuesta la vida, vale la pena. No vamos a morir de rodillas.
How Tijuana journalists are using their strength in numbers to push the government for more protection.
Plus, the end of an era. The man behind the Dodgers Spanish broadcast voice signs off. Jaime Jarrín reflects on his storied career with the team and friendship with the late Dodgers broadcaster, Vin Scully.
When I'm getting ready to do a game, I always pray God and say, please, let me see the game with my eyes, not with my heart. That's one advice that Vin told me.
We'll take a look at how Jarrín went from a guy who didn't know baseball to one of the most recognizable voices in the sport in LA.
Also, sí se pudo. Yes, it was possible. After years of work and struggle, a new San Diego museum finally opens its doors to highlight the culture and history of Chicano, Latino, and Indigenous people.
And the supreme diva of Mexican pop brings her world tour to Southern California. We'll give you a front row view as Gloria Trevi gives fans exactly what they came for in a packed YouTube theater. Hi everyone, hola. I'm Paola Hernandez-Jayo.
And I'm Luis Cruz. Thank you for joining us for Nuestra Voz Today, presented by the San Diego Union-Tribune and the Los Angeles Times.
We're coming to you from Tijuana, Mexico, home to more than 2 million residents and a city with a long history of crimes against the press. Across Mexico, about 150 journalists have been killed in the past 30 years.
The San Diego Union-Tribune launched a 5-part docuseries titled Journalism at Risk to tell the stories behind the people who tell Tijuana's story. The series begins with a look at veteran reporter Sonia de Anda, who leads a group of journalists who banded together to call on the government for more protection.
Buenos días, señor presidente. Antes de realizar mi pregunta, los periodistas de Baja California queremos informarle que nuestro gremio está muy lastimado. Como en todo México, trabajamos bajo la sombra de ser atacados y asesinados por nuestro trabajo y los crímenes que se cometen en nuestra contra no se aclaren.
Demanding justice for murdered Tijuana photojournalist Margarito Martinez Esquivel, who was gunned down in broad daylight in Tijuana on January 17th.
Aquí desde Tijuana, donde enterramos a 2 de nuestros colegas, Margarito Martínez y Lourdes Maldonado, en menos de una semana, no dejaremos de exigir justicia, porque no se mata la verdad matando periodistas.
Esto ha implicado que algunos de nosotros hoy, después de los homicidios de Margarito y Lourdes, estemos protegidos mediante un sistema en el que de todos modos no confiamos, aunque haya la buena voluntad de protegernos. Al final de cuentas, si algo ha quedado claro aquí en Tijuana, es que si van por una persona con protección, sin protección, a plena luz del día o en la noche, en una plaza frente a las cámaras, van por ti.
A mí me negaron el acceso. El presidente únicamente quiere escuchar a los reporteros que no son golpeadores, quiere escuchar que su trabajo está bien. Queremos justicia por nuestros compañeros.
Hola, ¿qué tal? Buenos días. Gracias por estar con nosotros esta mañana aquí en Esquina Informativa. Les saluda su amiga Sonia de Anda.
Para todos los reporteros de aquí de la región, Sonia es, yo creo que el pilar. Ella es fue como el imán. Ella logró unirnos a su alrededor y pues eso se le agradece, ¿no?
Nos ha costado mucho trabajo y nos hemos dado cuenta el nivel de vulnerabilidad que tenemos, al grado de que quisimos cotizar seguros de vida para periodistas y ni siquiera nos quisieron hacer la cotización. Dijeron que no habían esquemas para periodistas. Mira, pienso que de alguna forma lo que sucedió con Margarito y Lourdes nos sacaron de la comodidad o de la confianza que teníamos de que los grupos criminales ya no se metían con nosotros. De alguna forma esto se había aplacado más de 15 años y vivíamos en una aparente tranquilidad, en un aparente blindaje que nos dábamos a nosotros mismos, y después de lo que sucedió se rompió esa confianza. Hoy me siento comprometida con mi gremio, con mis compañeros, y si esto me cuesta la vida, vale la pena. No vamos a morir de rodillas.
Expreso los nombres de los 5 periodistas asesinados en este año en voz alta para que no sean olvidados. José Luis Gamboa, presente. Margarito Martínez Esquivel, presente. Lourdes Maldonado, presente. Roberto Toledo, presente.
To watch the entire 5-part docuseries, Journalism at Risk, log on to SanDiegoUnion-Tribune.com.
Coming up, he was hired despite not knowing baseball and became a legend behind the mic for the Dodgers' Spanish-language broadcasts. We'll take a look back at Jaime Jarrín's 60-plus year career and why he's signing off when Nuestra Voz Today returns. The San Diego Union-Tribune is San Diego's largest and most experienced news organization, winner of 4 Pulitzer Prizes and 37 regional Emmys. We deliver the news with depth, authority, and over 150 years of local knowledge. Our journalists speak truth to power. The Union-Tribune serves everyone who cares about our community. Support our work. Subscribe today on our website, SanDiegoUnion-Tribune.com.
Welcome back to Nuestra Voz Today. As you know, the San Diego Padres dashed the LA Dodgers' hopes of reaching the World Series with their historic victory in the National League Division Series.
While LA regroups for next season, their future games just won't sound the same. Jaime Jarrín, the iconic Spanish voice of the Dodgers, is retiring after 6+ decades.
The LA Times spoke with Jarrín about his decision to hang up his earphones.
This place has been my home for 62 years. It has been a great ride. I love what I do. I think it is time for me to change priorities.
Jaime Jarrín's place in Dodger history, he's right alongside Vin Scully as far as being the voice of Dodger baseball for millions of fans for so many generations. For 64 years, he's been the standard, and so now it's time to say goodbye to Jaime Jarrín after 64 seasons, and his legacy is just the same as Scully. And he writes the Dodgers Spanish record book just like Vinny did in English, side by side bookend Hall of Famers.
I have received many accolades, but nothing like going to someone who says, Mr. Jarrín, let me tell you, let me thank you, because thanks to you, I spent more time with my grandfather. Thanks to you, my father used to take me by my hand to the back of the house so my mother can watch the telenovelas and we can listen to you because we follow the Dodgers and we follow you. That's so great when they tell me, you know, my mother falling in love with your voice, with baseball, with the game, with Fernando. So it is something so priceless, really. I consider that the thing that really hits my heart.
His place in Dodger history is very similar to Vin's, because when they talk about MVP over the years, I would think that Vin Scully is probably the most valuable player. And if you speak Spanish, Jaime Jarrín, over the decades, has been the most valuable.
It's a big impact to the Latinos, Mexicans, all Latinos, but Mexicans in LA, all Mexicans are around like 8 or 9 million people in here listen to Jaime for 6-7 decades. So can you imagine that you are 70 years old now when you started listening to Jaime at that time? And it was generation by generation, grandfathers to father to son, and then that's something like that. It's great. I mean, for the community, for the impact in the community Latino is unbelievable. Jaime is one of the best.
No, la verdad que obviamente pues es perseverancia, obviamente es paciencia, es trabajo, no lucha. Obviamente al ser del país que es, obviamente sabemos que no es fácil, pero pues obviamente es un ejemplo para todos los latinos y para todos los mexicanos, obviamente que vienen y trabajan también en un país diferente. Yo siento que él es un ejemplo para todos ellos.
You know, I am an immigrant. I came to this country in 1955 from Ecuador, and I know how tough it is for an immigrant, especially those that come here as an adults.
Es un orgullo muy grande, obviamente el prender la tele y ver obviamente el juego en tu idioma y obviamente por la voz de él. Yo siento que es algo muy bonito y es algo que tenemos la fortuna, se podría decir, ¿no? En lo personal, de que él haya narrado uno de mis juegos, entonces, y que lo siga narrando. Entonces yo pienso que eso va a ser algo muy bonito para toda la historia.
And it's just mind-boggling to think that he is hired in 1958. He doesn't really have a baseball background, and they said, go study the sport for a year. We know that you're a great announcer, and we want you to be part of this Dodger package. And so he becomes a student of the game. He ends up falling in love with the game and becomes one of the signature voices of the game.
Well, Vin Scully was my teacher. He was my mentor. He was my friend. And he took me under his wings. He was so nice with me. He was always trying to help me, because especially at the beginning, in the early 60s, we didn't travel with a team. We used to recreate the games from the studios in Pasadena. We didn't have that. So we had to be on time, simultaneously. Strike, ball.
Can you imagine trying to do that, listen in one language and present it in another language at the same time, keep the emotion and keep the setting of what's taking on the field and do that over the airwaves? It's remarkable. It's difficult enough to broadcast the game in one language, much less listen in one and broadcast in another.
Well, when I'm getting ready to do a game, I always pray God and say, please, let me see the game with my eyes, not with my heart. That's one advice that Vin told me. Vin was, as I said, he was my teacher, so I tried not to copy him because nobody could have copied him. But I tried to assimilate the good things about his style. He wasn't a screamer. I am not a screamer. We try to keep a good pace of the game, get excited when it is to be excited. Otherwise, be nice, try to fill the time with anecdotes, with history, and things like that. So that's my school, the school that had Vince Kelly on.
He had his own style, and the way that Dodger fans, Spanish-speaking Dodger fans, fans of Jaime Jarrín, he just became part of the family.
When you're talking about baseball and broadcasting, you have to think about Jaime.
Jaime Jarrín may be retiring from the broadcast booth, but plans to continue representing the Dodgers as a community ambassador.
Coming up, a much-anticipated new museum opens to the public in San Diego's oldest Mexican-American neighborhood. How the museum is educating people about the origins of Chicano Park when Nuestra Voz Today returns.
Welcome back to Nuestra Voz Today. San Diego now has a place to educate the public about Chicano, Latino, and Indigenous culture and history.
The Chicano Park Museum and Cultural Center in Barrio Logan is a project 6 years in the making, and it recently held its grand opening. The San Diego Union-Tribune takes us on a tour.
To be a highway patrol substation.
Today's the opening of the Chicano Park Museum and Cultural Center, and we have an exhibition called Pillars, Stories of Resilience and Self-Determination, and these are groups and arts organizations that supported the development and the takeover of Chicano Park.
This building has seen a lot of history. This was originally targeted to be the highway patrol station in 1970. When the community pushed them out, they took it over and it became the offices for the Chicano Federation and the Chicano Park Steering Committee. And once the tax from the county came and the Federation had to remove themselves from the building, the Steering Committee successfully negotiated this building to be targeted for San Diego continuing education. But the agreement was the building would come back to the community. And of course, the city, they suffered from amnesia. They forgot about that promise, but luckily we have elders like Josie Talamantes and others that remembered what was said at those meetings. And we successfully were able to push 30 years later to make this the Chicano Park Museum and Cultural Center.
When Chicano Park was taken over, I think what it is, it planted a seed. Remember the people that came in with picos and palas, they started digging and said, we want to make it a park, we don't want a highway patrol station. We want to make it ours. And so they came out, and by digging, they planted trees in that. But part of that is planting our culture. And la danza conchera indígena was looking at. At that time frame, we were looking for who we are as a people here. And part of it was, yes, okay, I speak Spanish, I have Spanish things. But wait a minute. We also have an Indian side that we forgot. And so we started looking at our indigenous roots also, because I am mestizo.
To me, it's a big day of pride, you know, to be honest. It's a huge day of pride because my grandmother, she was here during the takeover of the park, and she's worked 52 years in this community. You know, she's still alive and she's still working, and she comes in and volunteers. She's our chair por vida. But for her, I've seen her struggle. I've seen her come to this park and give everything. Like, her whole life was given to this park. And within that history, she's collected everything. Chicano Park related, Chicano movement related for 52 years. And this is what we've been waiting for, a place to host it at where we can share it with everybody, because she would always open her house to everybody to come in. But for her to have her collection here hosted and people could come and learn this history firsthand, it gives me a big sense of pride to be able to help her with that.
I love Barrio Logan. I really like Chicano Park. Today was the grand opening of the museum, which I didn't even know about, and it was just something special, and I thought coming the day that it opened would be extra special. I think it's always nice to have people supporting their background, the community, people who grew up here, as well as people who just grew up in San Diego and may not even know about the neighborhood.
We're the generation that created the history. In a few years, we're going to be all gone. Who's going to remember what we did? And it's a way of saying, wait a minute, there's a lot of the pioneros, the pioneers for this, right? Who started that, we're the actual people who participated in the Chicano movement. Started all this, and it's a way of saying that it's become a national symbol or even a local symbol to have the museum. That we have to teach our children what we did and what happened. Oh, they forget. They associate. What I tell you, we have to teach them our history. Always to be lost.
Growing up in this community was very difficult. Very conservative city, and didn't fit on this side. Go to Mexico where relatives are, didn't fit on that side. So I'm Chicana India, my father's Yaqui, and so I want the next generation to grow up not being a hyphenated Mexican-American. Be an American, be a Chicana, be a Chicano, you know, and be proud of who you are.
For more information on the Chicano Park Museum and Cultural Center, log on to ChicanoParkMuseum.org.
That does it for this edition of Nuestra Voz Today, desde Tijuana, Mexico.
Gracias por su sintonía. Thank you for watching.
We leave you with Mexican pop star Gloria Trevi bringing her island-themed world tour to Southern California.
Take a look at Trevi performing at YouTube Theater in Inglewood, courtesy of LA Times en Español.